this doesn't have to be complex. And I think that that's one of the things that's a common thread of everything that we're talking about here is like these bribes are not complex.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast brought to you by IndiePRO.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the Creative Juice podcast. This is episode 317, and it's part 2 of our little mini arc on email marketing. We're looking forward to kicking off with a great episode and answering what I think is probably one of the biggest questions that artists, bands, and their teams have about growing an email list and doing email marketing. I'm your host, Jack McCarthy. With me today is Circa. Cirque, what's up, dude?
Not a whole lot, man. I'm actually pumped to review this topic. Before the show, we went over sort of Jack's list of bribes that have worked in the past to grow. Basically, a bribe is where you're offering something of value to get someone to join your email list. We call them bribes. And Jack was reviewing this list of all these past successful bribes and bribe ideas. And I think they're all super potent. So I'm super psyched to get the breakdown on them and also how they performed.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited about this because I think one of the biggest questions that artist teams have is, okay, I get it. Building a list is important, an email list, a text list, whatever. Maintaining contact with my fans is important, but how do I really get people to sign up? How do I get that to happen? And how do I get it to happen in a way that is engaging for fans and actually makes them want to do it and not be such a passive activity? And we've got a ton of experience with this at the agency and in our coaching program, Indie Founder. So wanted to bring to the show today in kind of this part 2 series, ideas for you guys and things that are working right now for us out there in the wild to help artists build big email lists with engaged fans that are ready to communicate with you and take next steps and actually open your emails and consume your content and all that good stuff that we promised happens when you build a list.
Yeah. For those of you out there who either you've got an email list, maybe you're struggling to grow it, or you're not seeing the conversion over to your email list from your fan base out there on socials or listening to you on streaming, this is going to be a very instructional episode. So definitely listen up. And for those of you out there who haven't started an email list yet, you can get your best foot forward. It can often be uninspiring to like start an email list, have this plan to communicate with your fans, but then there's not this immediate rush for people to sign up. So if you're emailing, every week to 5, 10, 15, 20 people, that can be uninspiring. So this is a great way to kick you off, I think. And let's start right here at the beginning. Even better, like what's the most potent or the bribe that you reach for most often when working with agency clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a nuanced one because a lot of times when looking at what we call bribes, lead magnets, permission offers, whatever lingo you want to use for it, we look at the audience and we also look at what the artist is doing currently in their marketing to see like what's happening and what can actually be used in a compelling way to support list growth. And a lot of times with a lot of our agency clients, they are actively releasing music or content on a super regular, frequent basis. And for artists that have fans that are really eager about that and they know that that's what's going on, one of the most potent and easiest lift bribes is early access.
And what does that entail? Early access to what?
What that usually entails is early access to whatever's being released on a frequent basis. So if it's music, 24, 48 hour early access to before music drops publicly can work really well. Early access to record release, an album release or an EP release can work really well. We'll talk a little bit more about that when it comes to ultimate album launch bribes, which we've spent some time talking about in past weeks, but that can be a piece of it. What's interesting though is early access can sort of encompass almost anything you want as long as it's something that beyond a shadow of a doubt that your fans actually would be excited to get early exclusive access to. Most recently, back in the fall, I was doing early access for some of our clients for their Black Friday sale for people who they were dropping merch, an exclusive line at Black Friday. and there was going to be offers based around it. And so we actually built up their list ahead of time saying like, hey, if you want to get early access to the Black Friday merch to make sure you get yours before it sells out, here's how you do it. You sign up to the list. So that was just a different example of early access, or a different example of what you can put into early access. But more often than not, it's based around the music releases that you're doing and the fact that your fans are really, really rabidly excited about the drops that you're doing.
And I think we could probably categorize bribes into something we might deploy for an artist that's already got a huge fan base. We just need to convert them over to email, versus ones that are a bit more, like you might not have 500,000 Instagram followers or whatever, and you need something with a little bit more juice to it to get people off the fence. If you're already kind of famous, you can pretty much put out anything gated, anything exclusive, and get people to sort of click through and sign up. But it's a little bit more nuanced when you're just starting out. So in the camp of things we might do, like we've got an artist, they've got a huge following already, or not even that huge, just very active on socials. What's the next thing you might reach for to convert them over to email?
So early access is the first thing that I would reach for those kinds of artists, ones who have active and engage and larger fan bases, right? Early access is probably the first thing that I would reach for because it's one of the easiest lifts. It's oftentimes one of the most palatable for an artist, especially an artist who's busy making a lot of content. They don't often want to make a whole bunch more, you know? The next thing that I would move towards is a content series or an album launch. And those two things can almost be used, or can almost be considered interchangeably. If you've got a record release coming up, an album launch, Bribe, an ultimate album launch, which we talked about a few episodes ago. And we'll link to that episode in the show notes where we kind of underlined what an ultimate album launch strategy looks like that works amazingly as a bribe. If you don't have a launch coming up, then you can do a content series where you're going behind the scenes of some of your, most fan treasured songs or releases or content and unpacking it a little bit more in a behind the scenes kind of way. I've seen that sort of bribe work really, really well. And what's cool about this is I mentioned that in saying this can work really well both for artists that have large fan bases that are really engaged and for artists that are, just starting to grow a fan base and they need something a bit more potent. This is the kind of thing where it actually can carry the level of excitement that's needed to get people off the fence. Whereas, for a smaller artist that maybe doesn't have a large fan base that's necessarily rabid, where early access would work, this can work in place of it.
Yeah, it's important to realize that like the early access thing can not only work for larger artists, but it can be potent, I think, for newer artists as you're building your fan base to gate some content. It is the case that people might find it more enticing to get something, even if it's just a little bit early, but it's going to come out anyways, if you're a larger artist versus like, if you're a smaller artist, I think I'll just wait for it to hit streaming maybe. But there are instances where you might want to keep something completely exclusive for an email list. You might want to reserve content that's only for people who sign up. Have you had any experience with that at the agency or seen that out in the wild?
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of where those content series bribes can work really well. You might pair behind the scenes exclusive content, gated content with music or content that is out there in the public, pair those things together, marry them, and put those two things, those two types of content side by side. So for example, let's say you got a single that you released 6 months ago, right? And you've got video content that goes along with it. If you were to put together some behind the scenes content for that single and maybe two others, and build that into a gated offer that's kind of like your best of content series. You could brand it accordingly based on the things that you're interested in. That can work really well and say like, this is only going to be for my people that join me on my list. It's never going to be available anywhere else. And that can work really, really well for, exclusive access. I do agree with your point about kind of the nuances between early access bribes for larger artists versus smaller artists that are just starting to build up a base that isn't necessarily as excited maybe, and they'd be willing to just wait for something to come out. Using exclusivity and gated content to sort of juice that up a little bit for those people is a good way to to get a little more teeth into the offer.
Yeah. All right. So we went over early access. We went over gated content. Is there any other categories of bribe that you've found have worked exceptionally well at the agency?
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about Ultimate Album Launch in conjunction with content series bribes, but just to unpack that a little bit more, something that we mentioned on the episode where we were unpacking an Ultimate Album Launch strategy was the fact that when you run an album launch in a live format, it can work really well to create a moment in time where fans are really excited to go through an experience with you. And this is definitely true. And what's great about it is it can work well for larger artists and it can work well for smaller artists because it truly has the potential to make people feel like they're going to miss out on a moment in time with you and with the stuff that you're releasing. And if it's gated and it's not going to be publicly available at the same time, you've got a winning formula to create a lot of subscribers really fast. What's cool about that though, and this is something else that we mentioned, is it also can be an asset that you continue to use ongoing. It can live on your website. It can live in your socials. It can live in your link in bio. You can continue to run ads to it throughout a release cycle, which is really cool. So that's another one that is kind of hand in hand with a content series. And I wanted to underline both of those points just to mention because it can be really powerful. What's nice about it is it spits out engaged fans on the back end, people that are, excited to continue to be on your list after the fact. And you can monetize, which is really cool.
Yeah. In our email marketing for musicians training, we cover different email automation series that get deployed based on different triggers. So they're based on the fan journey. And if someone's at this stage in the fan journey, they might get one sequence. If they're in another, they might get another. And one of the key sequences is called an I series or an indoctrination or an introduction series. That's basically supposed to bring someone into your branded world. It's supposed to like give them all the deets on your whole artistic world. And they should come out as like fully indoctrinated fans. They should get the program, so to speak. In an ultimate album launch, like we've often found that once you have a great launch, it can become that evergreen I series, but it accomplishes so much more to where it's like, it's also an E series. An E series is when you take someone from an opt-in bribe, something that they signed up to get value for, to their first purchase. So here's the thing that you wanted. Here's some supporting, bonus value around that. Also, here's this discounted offer. It's kind of like 1, 2, 3. And an ultimate album launch serves as that too. So once you have completed an ultimate album launch, it can serve as this foundational piece to your email marketing stack when it comes to automation.
Dude, yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that because there's something important here to talk about when it comes to bribes of any kind and how they function within your email marketing system. And this is something that I've worked with a lot of our artist clients with over the years, especially larger artists who they might want to pull an early access bribe of some kind, right? But they don't necessarily think beyond like, yeah, I want to get fans on my list. And so I'm going to offer them early access, 24 hours, 48 hours a week early that my songs are going to drop. I'm going to give it to them first. But where the thinking often stops and where we kind of fill the gaps a lot of times is like, okay, that's cool. I'm glad you want to do that. And I think your fans are going to want to sign up for it. But what we need to do is we need to surprise them with a little bit more when they get on board. And that's what the automations do. And this is true of any kind of bribe that you put together is if you can surprise your fans with a little bit extra, a little bit more than what the bribe promised them in those first few emails. Like imagine an early access bribe where it's just like, hey, sweet, I've got you locked in and I'm going to send you my next song 24 hours early, but you're not releasing a song for 2 weeks. Well, then are they just going to sit there for 2 weeks? No, what you want to do is give them a little bit extra, build in some content in your plan ahead of time so that it's like, hey, I've got you locked in. My next song is going to drop in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, I put together some stuff for you. I think you're going to dig it. Look out for my next email tomorrow. I'm going to drop you behind the scenes footage from my last single. I'm going to drop you a demo of the new single before anybody else hears it. You're going to hear the voice note that I recorded when I first came up with the idea. The creativity is kind of endless, but this is the kind of stuff that you can do to onboard people into your list And that's really where automations come into play, again, no matter what your bribe is.
Yeah. In our email marketing for musicians training, we go over sort of this crucial, just to go into the reason why you want to give bonus value. There's this crucial period when someone first signs up for your email list where they're really paying attention in a way that they may not in the future. They're much more likely to pay their highest amount of attention right when they sign up. They're the most excited. During that window of opportunity, you really need to capitalize. It's about setting expectations. It's about conditioning behavior. I know, as weird as that might sound, like it kind of is this Pavlovian conditioning where you've got their attention. They're highly likely to open the first email. They're a little less likely, but still more likely than average to open the second email. So in that first email, there's a couple of things you want to do. You want to get them to potentially click to an external website that might tell their inbox, hey, this is someone that they trust. They're clicking a link inside of this. And it boosts your sending reputation. You might want to get them to reply. You might want to get them to add you to their contacts, different things that help boost that sending reputation. This is a bit more about making sure your emails get through, but then adding bonus value on top. It sets a standard or sets a tone for what opening your emails is going to be like for them. They can expect that when they open their emails, they're going to get more value than they even bargained for. And that really helps out. It's a lubricant for the rest of the entire duration of them being your subscriber. It makes it a lot easier. So we like to say surprise and delight, go above and beyond. Always kind of give them more than they explicitly signed up for, something they weren't expecting. And that really creates a memory in their mind of like, oh, I enjoy opening this person's messages, this artist's emails.
For sure, yeah. And I can tell you from experience, like of all of the email lists that I am on in varieties of industries, whether it's marketing email lists from marketers and agencies and companies like that, business services companies, to artists, to brands that I like, all of the email lists that I'm on that have, surprise and delight or done something that kind of like made me go, huh? Like, or cool. Those are the ones that I remember. And those are the ones where even if I don't unsubscribe from a bunch of email lists, because honestly, like I'm on a ton of lists and I don't unsubscribe, the ones that I click and read are the ones that surprised me from day one and made me want to be like, okay, I need to make sure I keep opening because this was cool. And what else are they planning?
Yeah. All right. So we covered early access. We covered gated content or exclusive content. We covered sort of the ultimate album launch in depth. Is there anything else that is deployable? And where is it appropriate?
And I'm glad you asked. There are a couple more, two more that I want to talk about. And the first one is giveaway bribes, which are great. And giveaway bribes are especially good for artists that have started to build up fan bases, but maybe they're not super proficient or super quick with releasing content. Maybe you're in between release cycles or something like that, or you're in the studio, or maybe you're on tour. Giveaways can be a good way to build up your list, keep your fans engaged, get them excited, and you can do it in a way that keeps your fans engaged and stoked about what you're doing specifically. And to unpack that for you a little bit, there's a strong temptation when it comes to giveaways. I think almost everyone I know, and this goes beyond artists and bands, everyone I know, when they think giveaways, their mind automatically goes to the easiest thing that they could possibly give away. Like, oh, like, why don't I just give away like $100 gift card to Amazon or $100 Visa gift card or something like that? You want to avoid that. Really, when it comes to giveaway bribes, no matter how big your audience is, and especially as your audience grows, I should say, but no matter how big your audience is, but especially as it gets bigger, if you want to attract the right kind of people onto your list who are really there for you, you need your prize to be the targeting. And all of the giveaway opt-in bribes and campaigns that I've run over the years, the most successful ones have been the ones where the artist really took their time to figure out what is it that I'm going to be giving away that is related to me. For example, signed merch has been a good sort of bribe as a giveaway. I've worked with artists who have given away acoustic guitars, signed acoustic guitars, hand painted, kind of hand relic sort of stuff can work really, really well for this. Anything that's like distinctly tied to you and not just something that like your average Joe that might see your post would end up wanting to sign up for is the direction to go. If you're at a fork in the road and you're like, what could I give away? A gift card or, something that like only a real fan would want, you want to veer to the left so that it's something only your fans would want.
Yeah, I mean, people make the mistake of like trying to give away a gift card or a piece of tech, like a device or something. Even companies make this mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
And here's why it matters. Here's why it matters, especially like it's not just about targeting the right people and making sure that like some random Joe isn't signing up on your email list. It's because when you do a giveaway as a bribe, what you want to be thinking about is what's the next step for everybody else who doesn't win the prize. Whether you're giving away 5 of something, 1 of something, or 10 of something, you got to do something with the rest of those people on your list that sign up. Otherwise, they're going to be disappointed. They might not want to open your emails. A lot of times what we recommend and strategize on is like, all right, what's the consolation prize for everybody else? And if you're getting a whole bunch of randos on your email list, if your consolation prize is something from your store, a discount or an exclusive offer or something like that, they're probably not going to buy. But the other folks who are really into you, there's a higher likelihood of the take rate of that consolation being strong if it's real fans that are signing up.
Yeah, and it's also the case that like ideally what you're giving away is in line with the type of value that you're going to be providing normally through the email list. If not the consolation prize, which there should be one. But yeah, like really if you're going to offer a giveaway as a bribe, you need to be aware that if you do not make that giveaway prize something that they could regularly expect just by being on your email list, then they're highly likely going to leave as soon as the giveaway is over. So.
Right. Exactly. Actually, this reminds me of a story. One of our account strategists at IndieX, Joseph, he just ran for his own music, actually, a giveaway bribe for a free CD. He was actually rebranding his whole artist project. And so he had a whole bunch of CDs that he was just looking to give away. And he didn't have the infrastructure in terms of product and offers to build a full free plus shipping and handling funnel. So he was like, let me just build up my email list by saying I'm going to give away 5 copies of this record and that it's never going to be printed again because I'm changing my name and my brand. And he got a whole bunch of signups just by offering a free copy of his record. And that's a really good example of like, while it seems easy, this doesn't have to be complex. And I think that that's one of the things that's a common thread of everything that we're talking about here is like these bribes are not complex for the most part. An album launch or a content bribe is about as complex as you get, but everything else is fairly easy to lift. A free signed CD, like that's not hard at all. And that worked really well for him to get a whole bunch of people onto his list, was very, very low cost. And yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah, another thing that you can give away is you can combine FSH or free push shipping and handling funnels with the concept of a giveaway or even just as a bribe itself. Normally, with an FSH, what we're doing is we're going out to in the ad platform, Meta Ads, we are advertising, hey, I bought X amount of my own CD to give away to anyone who wants to claim one. Go here, just pay the shipping and handling, and I'll send it to you. But if you want to gate that with an opt-in, you can do that as well. And it gives this element of feeling as if you've won something to the free push shipping and handling funnel, which is kind of like stacking funnels.
Yes. Dude, I'm so glad you mentioned this because that is a strategy that we use all over the place on bribes. And it doesn't have to just be free plus shipping and handling. And I'm going to unpack this a little bit further, but you absolutely can put a free plus shipping and handling funnel on the back end of any kind of bribe, especially if you're not ready. You feel like you're not ready to run straight to free plus shipping and handling funnel traffic, or maybe you felt like that offer is kind of just fatigued out for me and I want to do something different, or you're running an album launch, you can have a free plus shipping and handling offer that sort of acts as your tripwire to get people to turn in from a subscriber to a customer pretty quick. Now, are they a customer that's paying a ton of money on the front end for something? No, but that's okay. It's still a great front end sort of conversion process. So yeah, we see that all the time, especially with album launches. I remember a few years ago, about a year and a half ago, we were working with a country artist at IndieX who we ran traffic at scale for an evergreen album launch that we had built. And the way that it monetized was a back-end sales offer. But before that ever happened, there was a free plus shipping and handling funnel for his previous record on the thank you page after they signed up for the album launch experience. And it was gangbusters. He subsidized all of his ad costs by just having that on the thank you page. It worked so well.
Yeah. As we said, the time that people are most excited is right after they take that action, right after they sign up for your email list. And so it is the perfect time to make an offer, a paid offer. And this is a type of funnel that's known colloquially as the napkin project funnel by digital marketer, where you're offering what is known as a lead magnet or a opt-in bribe. And then you are offering what is known as a tripwire, which is like a low cost item, typically below $20 in value, that someone might purchase as like an entryway, a gateway drug, right, into actually like supporting your music career with purchases. And then on the thank you page of that, there's a one-time offer upgrade to that offer that they just bought. It's an OTO, it's an upsell, but it's typically the core thing that you might offer. So it might be, one of your main albums or a bundle or a vinyl. And it's really, in terms of like internet marketing, like IM proper, it's like the funnel that built IM is the napkin project funnel. It was the most common type of funnel for a long time before webinar funnels really kind of took over. It was the main thing that people were doing to sell their products.
Yeah, it's true.
And it still works, still can work.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of the bribes that we've talked about here can be plugged into a funnel just like that. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Actually, there's a couple of workshops in our IndiePRO workshop vault that go over funnel architecture, not only specific funnels and how to build them, but how to, you might have noticed Jack and I are talking a little bit of digital marketing shop here and abstracting funnels out to say, like, there's these components, right? What's our opt-in bribe? What's our tripwire? What's our core offer? How are we getting there? Stacking funnels. The funnel architecture allows you to be a little bit more arbitrary with how you build these experiences or these flows of a user experience. So if you're in IndiePRO, check it out in your workshop vaults. I did a whole workshop on funnel architecture. Or if you're not in IndiePRO, consider joining. There's 20 plus workshops and all the trainings we've mentioned.
It's funnels all the way down, dude. And that's the cool thing about this is like once you start to get into the territory of talking about bribes and where they fit into email marketing, you start to see where building full opportunities for fans to go through multiple stages of the buddy system, your specific customer journey for your fans comes into play. Super cool. Super, super cool.
Got any more bribes, sir?
I do. I have one more, and I saved this one for last because I think it's really interesting, and it's also very specific for artists and bands. And those are tour and event related bribes. And these kind of manifest in a few different ways. One of the ones that we use at the agency very, very often are tour opt-in bribes that are primarily, the angle is like, tell me where to play or tell me where you want to see me. And these work really well to collect contact information from your fans, build up a list of people that are, really hot to trot as far as buying tickets from you and wanting to see you when you come out live. And they can work really well. You're also getting location information from them is the ideal here. So those can work really, really well. And alongside that, a variation of that kind of bribe that we've been running more recently is take a bonus and stack that on top of that bribe. So not only are you like, hey, I want to know where you'd like to see me play, or would you like to be first in the loop when I hit the road so that I can tell you when I'm coming to town? Pack something on top of it that's like, for example, we've been running this for a few of our artists in the agency and in Indie Founder. It's like, hey, I'm, giving away free copies of my latest EP or my latest record or my acoustic B-sides record or whatever it is, whatever free collateral that you might want to include. I'm giving these away to people at the door, but you have to sign up this way to get it. And so they can actually redeem something when they come to your shows. And so this works to really build up a list of fans that are excited to see you live. And that's really unique to artists, which is cool. What's nice about this is It builds up your email list not only with fans and their location information, but it's pre-framing for people who want to buy tickets and then people who actually want to show up for something, which is really powerful. So that's kind of an additional sort of piece to tour opt-in related bribes. This can also work really well for digital events, whether it be free or paid. You can use, a bribe for, let's say you're doing a live stream show. Let's say you're hosting a free live stream show. I'm just going to brainstorm here. Like, you're doing a tour kickoff live stream and anyone can come to it. It's free. You're going to do it the night before you hit the road. It's going to be a live stream on Zoom or something like that, but you have to sign up for it. This can work really, really well for those sorts of events. We saw a lot of that during 2020, like early 2020 and into 2021, when a lot of artists were transitioning over to either paid or free live events online. And that same sort of framework and same strategy has continued on since then. Just, the angle and the hook has changed a little bit because, touring is back out in the world again.
Yeah. And I mean, the far and away most common bribe, quote unquote, that we see, or the rationale given for why a fan should sign up to an email list, is typically get updates. We talked about it a million times. Not going to beat a dead horse. It's a bad bribe. And then the second most common is like get tour updates, which is a step down in terms of being not so great, but it still leaves a lot to be desired. And so the more you can do to build value around something as simple as tour updates, the better.
The nice thing about that, man, is like, it's not hard to take get tour updates and turn it into something that is focused on the customer and the fan. Even just the simple language change from get tour updates to tell me where you want me to go, or tell me where you want to see me, or get early access to tickets.
That personalizes it.
It personalizes it. It's worlds better. And it's honestly mind-numbing to me that like industry marketers haven't caught on to this. Like, it's not hard, man. It's really not.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we ran through a lot of great categories here. Are there any other bribes that I can sort of shake out of your pockets?
I want to mention one last thing about tour-related bribes, which circles back to the concept of adding tripwires into your bribes, something that people can buy. When it's related to touring, you can do some really cool stuff with the sales that you might want to make on the back end. So for example, when someone signs up for a tour related bribe, you could immediately offer them a piece of merch that is exclusive to the tour or the event or the weekend or just the single standalone show that you're doing, that's not actually going to be present at the merch table at that event. So it's an exclusive one-time offer that's like, hey, you signed up for this thing. I reserve these only for the folks who, raise their hand for early access or for exclusive access to this event. You can only get this here. There's only X number of them. We've done this with t-shirts. I remember when one of our clients was going back on the road once touring opened up for them in like early 2022, they released a back on tour tee, and it wasn't on the road. It was only available online, and we only made it available through this opt-in funnel that we had built for them and we were running traffic to. And the take rate was so high because people were excited about catching the band on the road, and then they were like, oh man, look at this exclusive offer. People were buying them like hotcakes. It was amazing. So this is the kind of thing that you can do on the back end of anything event related, and it works really, really well.
Hell yeah. Well, I think we've loaded people up with a fair amount of ammo in terms of, if you've already got an email list and the sign up rate is not particularly inspiring, you'd like to increase that. Go through this list, find something that you identify with, want to deploy, or that fits with like what you've got on hand or what you could quickly cook up. The key places to really install this are going to be your website. They're going to be your bios on all socials. Maybe creating a little bit of content to announce it can be valuable. And then also on your existing email list, don't be afraid to share this opportunity. Not only give that value to anyone who's already on the list, but entice them to share it with anyone they know who might also be a fan. These are all great places to install it. And if you're just starting out and you don't have an email list yet, or it's not very big, do the same, right? But in this case, you kind of have a bit more of an open palette to work with. So
100%. Yeah, this was super good. I hope you guys dug this. It was nice to bring some of the things that we see working really well right now and hopefully answer the question for you if you're asking it about how do I actually get people to raise their hand and do the whole list sign up thing, because it can be confusing. You see all the benefits, but you don't necessarily know how to bridge the gap. This is how you do it. We'll catch you guys next time on Creative Juice. Peace.
Feel the East Coast, feel the West Coast, say what?